Hey, what's up YouTube? I sort of already filmed the first intro to this video, but the sound quality was just so terrible that I decided to just refilm it. So you don't get to see me unbox the Mando Loyalist, but here he is. And this is the last piece of the puzzle that I needed to create my custom Mando Obi-Wan figure. So there's technically like 3 figures that you could use for this custom figure, but this is the one that I think is absolutely the best. But unfortunately, it's also the one that would take the most repainting. But that's okay. That'll be fun. I'm going to show you guys the process. It took a while because obviously I didn't want to pay a lot for a figure that I'm just going to pop the head off of and repaint. But finally the right deal came along, so I'm very happy. So these are the 3 figures that I think would work best for a Mando Obi-Wan. There's really no perfect body, but if you want to get the most screen accurate, of course these are Clone Wars figures that are actually from that arc, so of course they're going to be the 2 best ones. And if you look closely, these figures are pretty much exactly the same, and that might be like kind of like, but they look very different. The paint applications do make them look very different, but if you look very closely, you see the only difference is that this has pauldrons that have like a little thing on them, and then there's the horns on the helmet. By the way, I saw a really funny Mandalorian meme, this was like years ago, but it was talking about the armor, saying that Bo-Katan was a cautionary tale, and the meme had Bo-Katan saying that that was pretty rich coming from a Mando with horns on their helmet, and it really gave me a lot to think about. So technically this is a figure from the Mandalorian. This is Death Watch Mando. I guess one of the Mandos that saved Din Djarin. But technically these are, of course you see the colors are very similar. That's because they're technically the same, but the armor looks quite different. So this is like the least accurate one. Now this is the color wise, this is the most accurate one. This would probably require the least amount of repainting, even though like I personally would probably do a full repaint. The colors are pretty similar, especially the chest plate, but I think it would need just as, honestly, like even though the red chest plate is cool, I think in the grand scheme of things, it's actually going to need just as much repainting on this, and even more work because you're going to have to sand down those pauldrons to get those little horns off. So I personally just prefer the Mandalorian Loyalist. I think this is the best one. I mean, both of these figures are Walmart exclusives. They both have about the same price point. I think this one is just a little bit more easier to deal with. And we'll see how it comes out, my paint applications, but these, if you're interested in making your own custom Obi-Wan Mando figure, these are the 3 that I think they're the best to choose from. This one definitely the best, this one definitely the worst, but I almost did go with this one, because I do like how slim this Death Watch Mando looks, and I just think this is a cool looking figure, but this is definitely the best one. I just hope he doesn't look clunky. I don't think he will, though. I think it'll look really cool. I've seen some really cool ones online. So let's get started. So the process to remove the head is actually very simple. You just boil some water. It's piping hot, boiling water, and then you just immerse the figure, either the whole figure or whatever part you're trying to remove, for just about 20 to 30 seconds. And then when you remove it, it will be very hot, so be careful, and the head should just, or whatever part, should just pop back off. And if it doesn't come easily, then just re-immerse it for a few minutes. Well, not a few minutes, but a few seconds. It came off really easily. So now we're going to get started painting. And the main color I used was just a gray black. That's the color of the flight suit. The paint that I used is just the basic acrylic paint from Hobby Lobby. Nothing expensive, and I got some really cheap brushes, like a $5 pack of brushes, and I'm just going to town on it. The flight suit, of course, is going to be the most tedious, time-consuming part of the project. There's so many little nooks and crannies that you have to get to cover well, and also you have to be aware of how the action figure is going to bend, so you have to also bend all the pieces and make sure you get every little joint in there. But the gray black color that I used was really nice and it covered really well. Weirdly, it was almost the exact same shade as the shirt of the flight suit, which you would think that the arms and legs of the flight suit and the chest would all be the same color, but they weren't. The legs and arms were a slightly different color, and strangely, the chest of the flight suit was almost a perfect match for the color that I was using. So I actually didn't do a full layer on the chest piece because it was the same color. I just did kind of like a dry brush overcoat to give it a little depth. Again, this is a very long, tedious process. This whole thing probably took me about 2 hours from start to finish. In the background, I am vibing to some Dateline. Checking the figure for areas and spots that I might have missed. Gotta really get in all of those little crevices and make sure that everything is covered well. This was a super fun project. So now that the flight suit is done, I'll start on the armor pieces. And for the armor pieces, I did a layer of gunmetal gray over all of the pieces and a couple layers where they were needed. The pauldrons were a little hard to cover, but for the most part it was fine and it had a really nice effect with the gunmetal. My goal was just for the armor to be like one shade lighter than the flight suit and also be metallic, metal looking. And I think in the background I may have moved on at this point to like biblical mysteries or something. And I'm mainly just dry brushing. I used very little water throughout this whole project. Even when it came time to do just like the general battle damage and do a black wash, I used very little water. The little red spot on the chest plate did give me a little trouble. So before I do the black wash, I want to, of course, paint the red on the chest plate and then do some little silver chip details in aluminum. The red color, the main red color I used was just flat red. And then I added a little whole red just to give it kind of a darker, browner tint. Make it look a little bit more scorched. And then I had some regular red, but I really just barely used it. I dry brushed just the tiniest amount on the top of the dry layers of the flat red and the whole red. And I'll tell you, that whole red a little bit went a long way. But I think the effect was very nice. And I was really happy with how it turned out. This was the most intimidating part of the project for me because there is just so much detail in the chest plate. And you want it to look nice, and you want it to look nice and battle damaged, but you don't want it to, but you don't want it to look sloppy, but you also don't want it to look too mechanical. So it's kind of difficult, like, finding a balance, but I think it turned out very, very nicely. And again, right at the very end, I decided to go back in just the smallest amounts of red, just to give one extra little layer to the chest plate, just to brighten it up just a tiny little bit. This paint dried super fast too, which was very convenient. So now I'm going to use the aluminum just to add a few little chipped, very few. I almost wish that I had added more of these little chipped areas, but at the same time, I think the figure ended up looking very, very nice. And you really don't want to, there's a fine line between too little and too much. And you really don't want to go overboard with these tiny little silver flashes, I guess you would say. Just the smallest little amount of silver. Now that that's done, I'll start on the black wash, and I just used some regular black mixed with some water. Again, I used the very smallest amount of water. I found it was much easier just to kind of push the paint around with the brush to get the effects that I wanted. Some nice battle damage. And I didn't do as much battle damage on the legs. I left them a little bit shinier than the upper part of the body and the pauldrons. I put a lot of battle damage on the gauntlets. I tried the technique where I used the paper towel to sort of move the paint around, but it really just wasn't creating, I mean, it's a good technique, but it wasn't creating the effect that I wanted, so I quickly gave up on that and just went back to my almost dry brush technique of just moving the smallest amount of paint around in the areas that I wanted it, especially on those gauntlets. And at this point, it's hard to believe that this project is almost finished. It really did not take very long. Again, this entire project took about 2 hours max. The longest process was acquiring the pieces, acquiring a body and acquiring a head. Especially the head. For the body, I was just waiting for the right price to come around, but for the head, it had to be the right custom head. I've never painted a head. I'm not opposed to it. I probably will one day. But for this project, I wasn't confident enough, so I had to wait around for the right painted head. I wanted it to have a certain look, and finally I found the perfect one, and I knew it was time to really get serious about this project. And so it's really strange. It's almost, as I'm watching this video, it's almost to an end. Just put in the last finishing details on that black wash. And I'm sure somebody in the comments can tell me like a better paint brand to use or something like that. I live kind of in a rural area, so there's a Hobby Lobby like 17 miles away. So I just went to Hobby Lobby and got their acrylic paint. Alright, so this is the head I bought off eBay. I'll link the store below. And I think it looks really, really nice. Of course, he had to have a certain hairstyle. I wanted him to kind of have like a certain implied impression. Sometimes these heads will just pop right on, but not this one. So that's okay, because we'll just pop it right back in the boiling water. Now this was a little nerve-wracking because of course I didn't paint this head. I don't know how the paint's going to hold up. So it's a little nerve-wracking to douse this this head into the boiling water, but it was fine, and it popped right on after it came out hot, hot, hot. Popped right on, and there we go. Mando-armor Obi-Wan. It's complete. Fantastic. Alright, so here's my custom Mando-armor Obi-Wan figure that I've created. And I honestly could not be happier with the outcome. I think it looks great. I don't think he looks clunky on this body. I think it looks fantastic. He doesn't stay on the stand so good, but honestly, that's not an issue with me. That's a quality control issue with Hasbro and with these cheap knockoff stands. So that's fine, and he will go on there. The jetpack looks really nice. He was holding a lightsaber, but I think I took it away because I didn't paint it. But when he's holding that lightsaber, man, he just looks so cool. I'm so happy with this figure, and the best part is that now that I have put my time and effort into creating this, then Hasbro and Lucasfilm will undoubtedly release this exact same figure for 2024-2025. Just bet on it. So again, this was very simple build. Well, the hardest part was the head, but you know, look at that expression. He looks a little sad. It had to be the right head. But if you're not so picky about the head, pretty much, you know, any Obi-Wan head from the Clone Wars era will probably do. And the body, I used the Mandalorian Loyalist, but the Mandalorian Super Commando would work just as well. You just need to sand down his pauldrons. I didn't use very many paint colors. All in all, this project wasn't the cheapest project. I paid $50 for fodder and then $25 for paints. So that's a little bit on the low end for a custom. Most customs, real customs, really getting into it, sometimes it can run you up into, you know, $100 or more. So this is pretty good. But then of course some don't cost anything. So I was actually very happy with this. I'm very happy with how it turned out. I think the paint application looks great. I was very concerned, but it looks fantastic, and I really do like the deeper red color. I was a little nervous about that, going for a deeper red, but I think it makes it look more realistic for the live action figure version. So again, I did try to do kind of an ombre effect on the belts, and looking at it through the camera lens, I think it did turn out pretty good. I think you can kind of see what I was going for. So that's it. My next custom is going to take quite a long time because I've ordered custom soft goods. They're coming from China, so of course that's going to take forever. But my next custom will actually be on well, I guess it won't be a custom. It's going to be more like an upgrade, but it's going to be on this Amazon exclusive Cad Bane. We're going to do a facial repaint. We're going to modify this armor, make it look really tight. We're going to probably repaint the whole body just to make it really look cool. And then I've got a soft goods leather coat. I'm going to remove these pauldrons and put a soft goods leather coat on it and make this figure look really dope. I actually have two of them, so I'm not too worried about messing it up. And I'll probably unbox the other one and have them displayed side by side, the regular version and then my upgraded version. So if you're interested in that, please like and subscribe for more videos, and we'll see you soon.